przyjemnej podróży.
Witam Państwa.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the session devoted to high-speed railway and central transport hub, engines for Polish development. My panelists include Cezary Grabarczyk, former Minister of Infrastructure in Donald Tusk's first government, Piotr Wojtysiak, Deputy Marshal of the Łódzki region, Filip Czernicki, CEO of the Central Transport Hub, and Dariusz Joński, member of the European Parliament from the Łódzki region. We discuss one of the largest projects meant to change Poland, over 130 billion that we are supposed to spend by 2030. The question is it a modernization project that does not divide us politically? Because when it occurred in the former ruling period, the current coalition was quite skeptical, but now they are coming back to it. Is it the project that can be supra-political party? Let's start with Cezary Grabarczyk. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. New airport, high-speed train, these are the projects that Poland needs. To build the central hub? No, in my opinion. Why not? Because Donald Tusk's government, during the first term of office, developed its own projects. That's the short version of the Central Airport Hub 2010. An analysis developed by PwC in 2010, much broader than the short study. Strategy for railway development by 2030, which assumes high-speed train in 2i variant. Back then, we didn't think. Okay, so we were thinking, but did not initiate any works to lengthen the central railway line up to Gdynia, to the north. Master plan agreed with the European Commission, owing to which we received the money for the feasibility study, which was included in a WISE system into the European network of railway lines. In December, the Parliament closed the deal, and the regulation on building this section was determined, and the decision was in favor of it. Why didn't we implement it? In 2008, the government adopted an act on building high-speed train including what the environmental impact forecast included. We were ready to activate these projects, but then the crisis struck. It was a major financial crisis which covered the whole world, and the projects were put aside. But the analytical works were ongoing. A feasibility study was developed. It did not cut Brzeziny into halves. It did not destroy the infrastructure of residential districts. It didn't destroy companies and facilities. It underwent social consultations, was ready in 2014, but the government of the Law and Justice came and promised to work further on it. But then, during the conference in Marriott, Minister Adamczyk showed an improved feasibility study for the Y system. And we could start construction then. And the story began. We should change the concept, implement the central transport hub, meaning we are going to build a new capital in Baranów. Because what is it supposed to be? What is it supposed to be? It's going to be like the hub that all spikes lead to. This is an example showing how we can arrange the movement with high-speed trains, improving the capacity of conventional lines so that LGVs are simply shifted to trucks, to rail. Now over to Mr. Czarnicki. We heard it's not worth building the central transport hub. So the question is it worth doing so or not? And to what extent is this project political? We need to build new airports. Okay, but now I'm giving the floor to the president. The criticism of Law and Justice utopia corresponds to megalopolis by Tusk. I need to say one thing. Making this project political was detrimental to it. In 1993, the program for national roads and motorways development was adopted, and it has been effectively implemented ever since. There is no discussion whether we need motorways or not, and such a discussion didn't even take place, as we all agreed that we need to change road infrastructure. In a case of an airport, the question is completely separated from whether we deserve such infrastructure or not, whether this is the undertaking we should believe in. It's an infrastructural project. We should measure, investigate, and calculate what infrastructure we need to develop airline transport and high-speed trains. When it comes to high-speed trains, there was a major shift or change because the concept of the hub and spikes that lead to one place, the central place in Poland, is not justified by the passenger needs or economic reasons. But when it comes to airport infrastructure, it has been investigated because the first months of my office were devoted to analysis and audits to verify when it is necessary, how much it can cost, and what infrastructure we want to build so that it's economically substantiated. It's not about building an airport that is the biggest, that lives up to our expectations and ambitions, but the infrastructure that will enable development of airline transport in Poland. Now I'm turning to Dariusz Joński, member of the European Parliament. What about the political approach to such projects? Isn't it so that the current government found out that 60% of Poles support the construction of and implementation of such a project, but we're still in the electoral campaign, so it's worth listening to your voters. Thank you. First of all, I would like to say that the concept, the project of building an airport started like 20 years ago. I'm not going to repeat what Cezary Grabarczyk mentioned, because it was the second stage and then we entered the third stage. What's the difference? It's huge. You can listen to the president of the Central Transport Hub who comes to you, who does not repair altars from the transport hub money, but implement specific measures to build the airport. Depoliticization of the whole project. The second aspect is giving up the concept of the spikes. Nowhere in the world are airports built in such a way that spikes from the whole country meet in the whole airport, as if it was the most important hub in the country. So we came back to high-speed trains, and this is the Y system. I would like to apply to this topic because I am a member of the Commission for Transport. I coordinate the EPP group, which is the largest one for transport. From the point of view of the Łódzkie region, this is the pivotal investment. I want to say that after building the motorways financed from EU funds, high-speed train can bring about civilization leap in Poland. Why? These maps show which Warszawa, Wrocław, and Poznań Y arrangement. But in order to get money from the EU funds, we need to extend the project. It must be trans-border project that gets more higher scores and can be financed. So we want to go from Poznań to the west towards Berlin. But we want to run high-speed train from Warsaw to Kiev. We are in a city which will be en route between Berlin and Kiev, covering Warsaw and Poznań. We do believe it's going to be a civilization leap, which we need, and it can be financed from EU funds. We've got the cross-city tunnel being built in Łódź. We've got the entry and exit chambers. The previous government applied for financing the tunnel underground. The application was rejected as incomplete, and now we've got one more tender. However, the Central Transport Hub will submit a quotation to get 85% of funding for the first section of the high-speed train near Łódź. If we get the money for the first section in the new financial perspective, considering our determination, professional preparation, and the fact that we do everything to finance the project in the new perspective, I'm very happy that Piotr is the candidate for the budget commissioner, because I think he will be the right person to decide where the money and how it will be spent. Next week we are going to have the meeting with the Commissioner for Transport. He's from Greece, but understands that we need a railway system. The EU does not finance airports, neither does it when it comes to roads, but railway is the instrument to be financed. You cannot notice any picnics, events, fireworks, or conferences related to the central transport hub, and perhaps that's the first time you have seen him. When I asked him a month ago to tell me what they did within a month, I believe they have done more than within a month than within the last 8 years. And we need to implement high-speed train to the benefit of Łódź. And now you paved the way for the Deputy Marshal. I would like to ask Mr. Wojtysiak, how can the project change the situation for the inhabitants of Łódź and its surroundings? Łódź is among the first beneficiaries of the project. Łódź signed an agreement for the Łódź-Warsaw junction and received 75 million for that purpose. Jobs, commuting speed, and changing the operating pattern. Yes, this project is of key importance for the region and for the city, and it can change our reality. We are not aware of how important it is for the human space when it means reaching the largest cities within short time. It shows how our reality can change. The high-speed train will bring our region closer to other ones and will show how deeply we're rooted in economy. The increasing role of the region and Łódź will be of crucial importance looking at the investment and its acceleration. We no longer mention projects, but specific measures. The Ministry of Infrastructure, together with Mr. Klimczak, have been implementing the investments, and the inhabitants can notice it. Unfortunately, some challenging scopes occur and problems arise, but when it comes to complexity of the investment and the announced tender for the construction of the cross-city tunnel, it's amazing space for the region's development, improving mobility of our inhabitants, and for developing and strengthening the logistics function of the region. This is our smart specialization, so using intermodal points all over the region will be supported by the development of high-speed trains. Łódzkie has been supporting the process under its strategy from the very beginning. We pointed other localities and some of them changed, but I do agree with you that depoliticizing the process and moving to specific measures and actions give us a lot of joy and opportunity to change our reality. Are there any estimates related to the potential number of newly generated jobs for the region? Well, I suppose the time will come to specify it, but when it comes to economic development, the mobility of our inhabitants, and creating key infrastructural solutions for energy transition in the Bełchatów sub-region will mean benefits from the process. The Minister of Infrastructure undertook some measures to electrify the Piotrków-Bełchatów line and linking it to Wieluń. It will help alleviate the results of transition in the Bełchatów super-region, including the huge infrastructural and railway process covering roads and railway will help alleviate the results of transition and implement new sectors, as well as specialize the region and strengthen its logistic function that can make us proud in the future. I do agree with the President and Minister Grabarczyk that it took many years. However, at the implementation stage, the amendments made by the Ministry of Infrastructure are tangible for every inhabitant who can see that these are not only plans but specific measures.
Well, it's not a good sign that the panelists agree in everything, so I think I have to introduce some extra questions. The hub was in 100 are concretes by the government, and one of these concretes was that we will stop the ownership changes, we will block the sale of Okęcie Airport. President Czernicki, what about buying the land? It can actually generate protests. Are you expecting protests? Are you getting ready to them? Buying out, this is the main thing I'm asking about. So far, we haven't had any buyout. We started the program of voluntary acquisitions. It's laid down in the law on the Central Transport Hub, and these voluntary transactions, voluntary acquisitions have allowed us to purchase over 14,000 hectares of land. We have to gain twice as much, and there are some major transactions. Hundreds of hectares are involved. Big farms are operating in these areas. The program of voluntary acquisition is a priority to me. This is the program that, first of all, allows us to offer a very attractive form of remuneration for the land. Very briefly, I would like to tell you, I think it's important information, this program of voluntary acquisitions will be launched also for the properties that have to be purchased to develop the railway line. So it will be for the Łódź areas. It will be addressed to Łódź inhabitants. And I would like to encourage you to analyze this solution and use it if such an offer is submitted to you. Properties that we want to buy, the Central Transport Hub company can pay based on the estimates that result from the assessment tool. It's not the actual price of the properties. If properties are older, we can use the estimate based on the restoration, reconstruction of the building. So, for example, if there's an old building, we can propose the price, let's say 200-meter building. So we will propose the price that would allow the owners to build a new building based on the current prices. If somebody has a new house, because maybe somebody has just completed the construction, then the company can propose the current value of the building plus 40%. So it is an exceptionally attractive offer. And for the land itself, it will be plus 20%. So it's quite an opportunity to start a new life in a new place. I do realize I'm very sensitive when people suffer. So I spent a lot of time to make sure that my staff verify different approaches. I was convincing them that they should use empathy, that they should not pressure people. This offer should be attractive enough So anyone who will receive such estimates hopefully will be able to make a good decision to restart their lives. I do realize that it's not satisfactory to everyone. Very often there are strong bonds with the land, and of course the citizens haven't done anything wrong, and it's just a coincidence that Polish states decided to make this investment in their land. But I think that these offers are attractive, and I do hope that the owners of the properties will find these conditions appropriate. There are no other special acts concerning the purchase of the land. Question for our parliamentary Sherlock Holmes, who, when he was in Poland, played this role. So it's a huge project worth a lot of money, but it involves a threat of financial abuse. We have actually witnessed it during the previous stages of this project. These were abuses by the previous government. So the amounts of some 200 million zlotys were misappropriated. So we need to develop such mechanism that will ensure that in 7 years' time there won't be any other abuses. We have to make sure that the money is spent on what it should be spent. Any major investments must be accounted for in a transparent manner. I remember when we were making some controls with MP Szczerba, we found a lot of information that indicated that developers were very happy with the offer they received. We are talking about the land in Warsaw. The prices were very high, and many people found out from us that somebody was considering liquidation, and the company didn't ask anyone, didn't ask Łódź residents or Warsaw residents whether they wish to have such projects implemented. So it looked that somebody really wanted to steal a lot of money. Luckily, we stopped these plans. We interrupted these plans. In the future, we will see and all the analyses have to be performed. Such projects require detailed analysis, and the fast speed train investment will be checked at least 3 times. EU institutions will be also verifying such plans to fund the fast speed train project using EU funding. We would also like to use the Polish presidency that starts on the 1st of January. I'm very happy that actually the president of the parliament has made a video to invite everybody to watch. Here in this room, there will be one of the debates of the key EU officials who will be discussing different projects, but among these projects, the Central Transport Hub project will be discussed. In the early February, this debate will take place in this hall. After 13 years, we managed to invite the Committee for Transport of the European Parliament to come to Łódź and Warsaw to show our plans, to have this atmosphere that will show that we know how to do it. We have started this investment, and we will want to show that this is the investment for people. And the money has to be spent correctly. So the company is managed not by a politician, not like during the previous government. Picnics were organized, everything to bribe the voters. We will do it a different way. So we are speaking with one voice here. The aim is very important, and it's not in 2 or 3 decades. We are talking about this cross-city tunnel. There was 2-year break because we ran out of money. Of course, there are some problems with the buildings in the center of Łódź, but hopefully next year we will complete the construction of this tunnel and we will commence the construction of the second section of the tunnel. So if everything goes well, within the next few months, the travel to Łódź will be much faster. Now, the time of travel between Warsaw and Łódź is 58, and the target is 39. So we are applying for co-financing for such rail projects, fast rail projects. We would like to receive some EU contributions. So which amount can we hope to receive under EU funds? The program, which is coming to the end, and actually such projects could be funded under this program. So it actually provided some bonuses to Poland and countries that joined the EU after the year 2004. The old member states were not eligible. So we will see how the new perspective works. Every state declares what is needed. Next week, we will have a meeting with the commissioner. So we will submit inquiries, requests, suggestions. We would like to be focused on railway, and we would like to have some railway projects co-financed by the EU, and we want to act effectively because this is the job for the politicians. And of course, the projects will have to be implemented by non-politicians. Cezary Grabarczyk, 131 billion zlotys is about 50% of the next year budgetary deficit. It's 1/7 of the expenditure in the next year's budget. It seems to be a huge amount. This 131 billion zlotys, is it a lot or not enough to implement the project, which is to be a driving force of change in Poland? It's a huge amount. In 2008, we were estimating that Y project, the one you can see on this board, will cost 18 billion zlotys, and this cost will be paid by the Polish taxpayers. Law and Justice Party and its ministers and presidents of the Central Transport Hub company, they didn't know what they were talking about. They were coming to us and they were saying that the hub and the strikes would cost 8 billion. And it just showed that they didn't know what they were talking about. They had no knowledge. And the estimates that were prepared 6 years ago indicated completely different amounts, much higher amounts. And only then those politicians started calculating. So now I keep saying, let's forget about these utopian assumptions. Let's concentrate on what is ready. Y-axis is ready. This is the options prepared in 2014-2017. I am angry with my colleague Maciej Lasek, who is a spokesperson of the Central Transport Hub. I really don't like it that he just accepted everything from the previous government. That's why he wants to divide the town of Brzeziny into 2 halves. So in the year 2017, the funding was to be allocated under Infrastructure and Environment Program. We want to work, but we do not want to harm people. We do not want to get back to the variant of this place. In accordance with the previous feasibility study, we are moving this section several dozen kilometers to the east. As a result, this connection will not be serviced under this variant. It will not be. It will not provide connection because the line will be longer by 100 kilometers. Law and Justice Party wanted to build high speed with the index of speed 200 to 280 kilometers per hour. TGV was in Poland. I don't know if you knew that in 1995, TGV was in Poland. At the bottom, you can see Pendolino. Luckily, Donald Tusk has said we are going to suspend this speed ratio. So to me, this is the first amendment and the only amendment, and no money is spent aside. That is very important. And the European Parliament member has mentioned it. Nowadays, we are deciding whether we want to spend this money in a sound manner to extend the high-speed line to Jelenia Góra, and then from Jelenia Góra, going through Wrocław, we should reach Szczecin. Then there is an option of connection with Berlin. Dariusz Joński has mentioned this option. Maybe in future, we will be building the line from Warsaw, going through Lublin, Rzeszów, Lviv, and Kiev. Mr. Joński has mentioned, but do you know when this will happen? I can try guessing. So we will meet in 30 years' time, and we will check whether I was right. Because here in Łódź, we have experienced how to develop big infrastructural projects. We did quite well with the railway station. We had a year delay. But when it comes to the tunnels, cross-city tunnels, we can see that this process is slowed down. There is a solution, but some technical issues prevent us from progress. President, have you verified the tunnel for KDP? Why shouldn't we change the concept of the broad pipe with the diameter of 14 meters? Maybe we should use two tubes, 7 meters each. Why do we implement the project by Law and Justice Party? I cannot understand it. Mr. President, you have been saying, we heard it with Mr. Joński, from Minister Horała or President Wilda. They were talking about those voluntary buyouts. Why do you need the buyouts? Just change the location, and then no buyouts will be necessary. And this path has been identified and funded with the EU money. Before I give the floor to Mr. Marshal, maybe Mr. President would like to address the comments by Mr. Grabarczyk.
First of all, we should start by saying that the differences are huge. What was presented previously in the project is, it's like painting on a map with your felt tip pen and having your head high in the clouds. When we heard what the project looked like, it was like a beautiful railway station with its own airport. This is what it was supposed to look like. The airport was overscaled with thousands of trains every day, which is not the European reality. We are not going to implement it. Sorry, Minister, but I do not follow this concept. The differences when it comes to the railway project are huge. However, when it comes to buying out the land and the course of the railway line to respect the people who will be affected by the investment, we need to remember that every line and every course is thoroughly analyzed by specialists covering several criteria. The first one, when it comes to determining the routes, is how many people will be affected, how many properties, and the lowest number of families rather than households will be affected by this, by the routes and the course of the line. Mentioning Brzeziny, there is no option to quit the project. Poland has been developing for 25 years, and even since 1990s, the changes that occurred in the urban development are enormous. So it's not possible to bypass every single household and not affect individuals. But honestly speaking, did you have a look at the study from 2014? Ask your employees to give it to you. Request the one presented in 2017 by Minister Adamczyk. It can be done cheaper. The Y line can have its junction in Nowe Skalmierzyce or Ostrów, giving the opportunity for development to other parts of Poland, which will become the project beneficiaries. You suggest 2 tunnels instead of 1, but it doubles the risk of disturbing the property above it. I can assure you that the cross-city tunnel is the least dangerous solution. So if we build something, it will be maximum 33 ministers under the ground. Minister, I would have to be like the Marshal of the Polish Parliament and mute your mic. Now we would like to give the floor to the Deputy Marshal. The success of every project lies not only in its emergence, but delivering it within the deadline and at the designed cost. When you design a house, then you complete it at twice higher cost. The same applies to every renovation project. Any risks or dangers when it comes to the final value of the investment? Well, I suppose that even today's debate is testimony to the fact that we are analyzing it. When I talked to the ministers, I learned that the plan is amendment, but it should entail analysis that will be implemented. I am convinced that the already implemented measures, when the transport plan assumed some expenditure on the regional train, for instance, the investment related to electrification and modernization of Piotrków-Bełchatów rail line, connection to 131 and 181 lines exceeds 1.8 billion, but I am very happy that they are available from the EU funds, that we do have the support of the European Union, and that they will be available. But it's also about implementing tenders for traction systems and preventing transport exclusion. We are going to buy buses. The amounts have been specified, and instead of 45 buses, we are going to buy 47 of them. But that's the way it is in projects. I am fully convinced that these issues are carefully analyzed to make effective decisions. So I will ask it in a different way, and the question goes to all speakers. What do you identify as the major hazard for the high-speed train and central transport hub project? Just briefly. Dariusz Joński. Well, it's all about the money. It's all about guaranteeing funds. It is so that the first section can be financed of the high-speed train. By the end of January, we need to submit the project, including the contractor. If we were to change it, we'll definitely not get any money, and the 5 kilometers section is significant. We could have an expert debate if we deliberate whether two smaller ones on one big one is a better solution. In this case, the hazard is smaller, but it still exists because it's under the city center. Similarly to every investment, we need money. The cross-city tunnel was not drilled because there was no money for it. That's why we need to do everything to get the money. It's not about the amount of 18 billion, but it will be around 50, 70 billion, which will be hard to find in the state budget. It will be good to have it financed by the EU. That's a major turn, but we play to the same goal, to get the money, to show that we are ready, that we have constructed the railway station, and we can accelerate. When I ask about the projects in other countries, I learned that we are quite ready in this part of Europe. Filip Czernicki, the greatest hazard for the project. When it comes to the airport, honestly speaking, it's not a challenge as such. We had several investments of that kind in Poland. We do have the know-how. Polish construction companies and foreign contractors will be happy to participate in the proceedings. 350 kilometers per hour, nobody has traveled at such a speed in Poland. It will be a major challenge for contractors and for the National Transport Office, which is going to certify it, the new technology and the rolling stock. This is the technology we haven't seen here. When I talked to professors from the University of Technology and listening to their discussions, where to build, how to build, what hazards there are, whether we should build on embankments, on slopes, every step is a challenge. Therefore, I feel that the railway will be a more difficult task than the airport. However, the project as such and the construction logistics will pose the major challenge, and it also attracts greatest focus. Following the land acquisition, there is the question on how to organize the site. Millions of tons of materials that need to go to the site is a unique situation when we are going to have the investment related to airport and extension of the A2 motorway. Once accumulated in time, and I talk to contracting companies, I typically say, don't worry, we may have not enough railway cars, trucks, but the logistic project will be the most difficult one, not to mention how onerous it's going to be for those living in the vicinity. And in your opinion, the greatest hazard, regardless of the components we mentioned, it's about finance. As the MP mentioned, we hope that the money available in future perspectives will be available, but we need to be prepared for it. We should give up some concepts, and perhaps as a result of changing the concept, we might not get adequate financing. And there is also the aspect of logistics mentioned previously. This is an undertaking which can really give you a headache when we consider the numbers quoted in relation to the project. We've got excellent specialists, and there are various institutes involved, helping us develop the best solutions. I simply worry that it may take another year or more, during which we are going to change the design formula. Some amendments can be made, but let's stick to the idea that this is a great opportunity for economic development. I'm very happy that these investments focus on bipolar connections between Łódź and Warsaw, as it gives lots of opportunities for development. Each of us dreams for the Łódź Fabryczna railway station to integrate people and to change the way we travel through the region. The question is, after the next parliamentary election, will it be possible to continue the project? And Cezary Grabarczyk, the greatest hazard for the current project. Infrastructural projects that enter the implementation stage typically continue. We are not talking about execution, and the improvements are necessary. We've got Minister Stępień sitting in the audience. He was the deputy minister responsible for road construction. We sat together, took the construction agenda from the 1990s. Minister Syryjczyk removed some of its content, but we knew we had to move forward. But the public opinion would ask every day, how much have you completed? And the first effect would be observed within 2-3 years. Then we sent an agent to Mr. Schetyna. Local governments were the factors that triggered real effects of road infrastructure projects. The Marshal mentions a crucial thing, that we need small projects, local projects, as part of Railway Plus project. I'm very happy that it reverberated in this panel. they can fulfill such a role. Approvals for large projects about which people think with a hint of fantasy and a bit of anxiety. It needs to be mentioned that we spent over 100 million for roads. There were no frauds. And if there were, you would definitely hear of them. Moreover, there were over 6 billion invested in airports before Euro 2012. Railway investments also applied to the railway station in Łódź. Social approval for such investments is necessary. The first ideas that people came to me with when I was the minister showed the high-speed train station for Łódź, but in Stryków. We do not have good transport from Stryków to Łódź. We still have a bumpy road. Isn't it so? There is the railway station over there. If we asked about it, would there be social approval for such a concept? Probably not. Every sensitive spot, such as Brzeziny, should be verified. We need to come back to what the Europeans paid for. The feasibility study will help us meander through the reefs. The same applies to Nowe Skalmierzyce. It's not too late. We can talk about it. We spend a lot of money from time to time, and not every day. Expressways, motorways were developed based on a good vision. The Marshal comes from Piotrków. My wife comes from Piotrków, but I didn't allow moving S8 to the south. And that is why we've got the Western Ring Road. If we had S8 in Bełchatów, can you imagine building a ring road 40 kilometers longer? The Marshal's smiling. We need social approval for the projects. That's my appeal. What about the money? Mr. Joński will take care of it. We are running out of time, but there is one more question from me. You will have 1 minute, and I'll be very strict about it. It's 2032. What an average Mr. Smith, Pawlicka, or Joński, how do they profit from the central transport hub and high-speed train project? A minute. Okay, 30 seconds. You can travel to Warsaw within 35 minutes, but it's going to be trivial for us, for the Łódzkie region, and for Warsaw and Mazowsze in the context of what's happening in Silesia. That's once-in-a-lifetime chance to build duopolis between Łódź and Warsaw. And if we can travel farther to the west and south of Europe, and it will take 3, 4, or 5 hours, there's the question about the airport. Sorry. Okay, sorry, I need to move on to another speaker. Duopolis, Filip Czernicki. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that's the moment we're going to change habits, because what we lack nowadays are good quality and fast connections between metropolitan areas. 100 minutes to get to major metropolitan areas and 3 hours between north and south of Poland. And it's going to take some traffic off the roads, it's environmentally friendly, and it will accelerate traveling through the country. It's a major breakthrough. Piotr Wojtysiak, I am fully convinced that from every place in the Łódzkie region, we will be able to move to the junctions or hubs that will take us to the place where we study, work, or simply travel to get access to better public services. Fighting the traffic exclusion will be easier if we implement the major project, but we won't be able to do it unless we implement minor projects. So the local authorities have been gradually improving access to communication. Cezary Grabarczyk. First of all, Poland and the region of Łódź will no longer be omitted when it comes to major investments. When people realize we are building a big airport, they will realize it's worth coming here with huge money to offer new jobs. That's it, because Cezary Grabarczyk, Piotr Wojtysiak, Filip Czernicki, Dariusz Joński, I'm Aleksandra Pawlicka and work for TVP Info since May. Thank you.
Jedzą kanapki z kawionem.
Nadzwyczajna kasa.
Obrażanie dziennikarzy telewizji polskiej.
Chodzi o działania polityczne.
Przygotowanie ofiar dla pedofilów.
Für Deutschland.
TVP Info. Włącz się na nowo.
Radość, nadzieja, życie, wyzwanie, pasja, pamięć, zaufanie, pokój, jedność. Słowa tworzą świat. Polskie Radio. Źródło wiarygodnych informacji.
Plany biznesowe powstają z marzeń. Dlatego nie ma dwóch takich samych firm. Jedni chcą działać na całym świecie. Innym cały świat mieści się w dłoni. Sukces biznesu to nie tylko jego wielkość, ale też szczęście, jakie przynosi ludziom. PKO Bank Polski.
Uwielbiam szycie w sieci. Wczoraj podszyłem się pod wnuczka, wieczorem uszyłem intrygę na apce randkowej, a dziś planuję grubymi nićmi szyte oszustwo z promocją. Tak się szyje.
Na oszustów są sposoby. Zapoznaj się z poradami ekspertów na niedajsiepodszyć.pl.
It's not always easy to recognize. It may look like this, or like this. It may be a burden, but it is a responsibility that we embrace nonetheless. But if it means this for one person and this for someone else, maybe it ultimately means being there for one another. It isn't handed to us, but we know where to find it. And how it feels, how it tastes, and what it sounds like when we finally have it. It means different things to different people, but for many, it means everything. And if we all fight for it, it will eventually bring us together.
Ihre Ausreise
Polskie Radio.
Jedynka.
Rodzina spółek Pelion to 12 tysięcy osób pracujących w ponad 300 spółkach w Polsce, Szwecji, Wielkiej Brytanii i na Litwie. Jesteśmy liderem w branży ochrony zdrowia. Od 1990 roku dbamy o długość i jakość życia. Pracować z nami możesz w jednym z 7 obszarów.
Dziś Nowy Jork, jutro Londyn. Za chwilę Paryż, Warszawa, Berlin. Na całym świecie kultura pulsuje rytmem. Wystarczy tylko włączyć dwójkę. Dwójka, Polskie Radio. Jesteś na miejscu.